You want me to start?
Well, yeah,
Okay. Well, this is episode 3.
it is.
So here we are. And what are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about how we have been married for a really long time. We ran business together and we're still growing and doing new things now, and kind of how we came about all of those and some of the trials and tribulations along the way.
So how long we've been married? Let's start there.
Well, last August, we hit 31 years. So we will be, oh, no, that's not right. We hit
last August,
30.
30.
Oh,
That's it's a full pile right there.
that's usually what you do, not me.
I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah. Last August was 30. So we are in our 31st year of marriage. And I ran World 29 with you for about 20 years.
And Rule 29 turned 25 in January.
Yeah,
That's pretty wild.
it is.
Life isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And along the way, we all stumble, learn, and keep going.
Welcome to Running Errands, a podcast about navigating marriage, parenting, friendship, business, faith, and all the unexpected detours that come along with it.
We're Justin and Sarah Aarons, partners in life, business, and raising 4 incredible kids.
For over 30 years, we've been figuring things out as we go. Sometimes successfully, sometimes, well, not so much.
But that's the beauty of hindsight. We're here to share the lessons we've learned, the wins, the failures, and the moments that have shaped us.
Through honest, unfiltered conversations, special guests, and maybe even a few stories from our kids, we'll explore what it really takes to grow, adapt, and continually move forward.
So whether you're running a business, a household, or just running late,
You're in the right place. Let's do this together.
we're glad you're here. Welcome to Running Errands.
So I was reading this stat earlier, and I just want to share it with you. Only 41% of couples make it to their 25th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
Most businesses don't survive past 10 years.
That one makes sense to me.
So this year, as we hit 31 years and decades of running businesses together, the reality is it has not been perfect, but it's been lasting.
Yeah. And very educational on both sides.
Well, let's share about some of the things we've learned. So I got a question for you. When you think about the early days, marriage, Rule 29, raising babies, what felt harder, building a business or building a marriage?
Well, in the context that you framed that question, it really should be, was it harder building a business or building a marriage while raising babies?
See how this works, everyone? This
Yeah,
This is a relationship right there.
I don't know if I can separate them, because I think we need to back up a bit. I believe we spoke about it in episode 2 that we got married very young.
Yes, you weren't even the legal.
I was not legal at our wedding. to
Well,
drink.
you were, hold on. You were legal.
No, that sounds weird.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a drink.
It's a drink, yeah.
I wasn't 21. I got
Yes.
married at 20.
Woo.
And you were 22. And let's just put this in context. That means 3 of our 4 children would have been married by now.
Yeah, it's bananas.
That's crazy. We were babies.
First of all, would you have said yes to any of our kids had they come to us and said, I'm ready to go?
I don't know if it's our job to say yes, but I would have strongly counseled them to possibly really for sure wait.
Okay, so let's go back to the original question. So we're young.
We're young.
We start our marriage young.
We started married young. We move across the country. I transferred schools
I started my career.
and you started your career. And I think that our ignorance or our naivete was in our benefit.
Well, without a doubt. I mean, we went from Illinois to Phoenix and we got an apartment I was making pretty much zero money.
I do believe our first year combined taxes put us at about $13,000, which was below the poverty level.
Yeah, I was crushing it.
We didn't know any different.
No, I mean, I felt like, hey, this is how it works.
Yeah, we were exceptionally creative in how we spent money, or didn't spend money.
Right.
Actually, that's probably a better way to say it. And so also, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. I don't think I knew that word back then. It was just business owner, but my dad had his own business. So you coming to me multiple times in our marriage to tell me or ask me, discuss with me that you wanted to start a business, it never seemed harebrained or crazy because that's how I grew up. So it didn't seem like out of this world. And I also just didn't know what questions to ask.
Okay, so far, if we were going to rank them, you would say starting the business back then felt easier than the marriage?
Yes.
Okay. And then when we started having kids, if you were to force rank them, what would you say would be the hardest?
I think it was all really hard because you're so stretched. And you were very, very involved and dedicated to the business, which is what is required if you're going to start a business.
But I did start Rule 29 the year our first child was born.
Well, I think this deserves a story.
Okay.
I do believe I was 7 or 8 months pregnant. And we were on a walk. And you said, I think it's time for me to start a business. And I said, sure. I think that sounds like perfect timing. I mean, I don't even think I questioned the timing. Like when you look back at it, and you said, I don't think we're going to be able to afford insurance. So you have to stay working. Because I was working for my dad at the time.
Right.
And I could get insurance through that job. And we'll figure it out. And the reality is we did figure it out. But if we remember, we pieced it together that
Yeah.
I put Mackenzie in daycare 3 days a week. No, 2 days a week. And then I brought her to work with me on Fridays. I would cart the swing and the pack and play. And then one day I would work and you kept her at home in the morning. And then I would come work from home in the afternoons, which I don't know how I worked from home. That really wasn't a thing, but that's how we played it out. And we did that.
It worked out.
It did.
Yeah.
She had bouncy swing in your
Oh, yeah.
in your door with frame. So again, I think we just made it work. And maybe it was hard. I mean, not even maybe. It was hard, but I don't think it was. It's just kind of what we did.
Yeah. So when you look back, what's one thing that you thought was a big deal early on that now you look at it and you're like, oh, that feels pretty small now?
I don't even know. I think I was so head down that I'm trying to remember things I thought might be hard. I think time, I think we both knew we needed more time together, like as a married couple. And that was a high cost to get that.
Yeah. I felt we were pretty disciplined on having date nights. At least it seems like we were, and we would do things with friends. But beyond that, I was working on the business or you were with the kids. I mean, that was.
Yeah, when it was just Mackenzie, it wasn't, quite as overwhelming because just one, I mean, you think you're busy with one, and don't take offense to that, any of you with only children. But when I look back at one, I'm like, my gosh, how could I have ever been overwhelmed? But I think because of your personality and the kind of business you wanted and the kind of reputation that you wanted to create, it took a lot of your first line energy.
Yeah, I was ambitious.
You're very ambitious and had a lot to prove to yourself, to others, and also in the reframing of my dad was always home by 4:30. So I thought that all business owners did that too. So that actually played not in your favor because I was like, he owns his own business and he was home at 4:30 every day. Why are you not coming home till 6 or 7?
Yeah, I don't remember this date exactly, but I know we had a couple kids. So I think it wasn't until 5 years in where we went to South Haven, and even then I worked, I think, from like 8 to noon and then came back.
We were 3.3 kids. I was pregnant with Ava.
Okay.
And I talked you into going because I wanted a beach vacation. And you said, I can only go, but I have to work in the morning. So you would get up, go to a coffee shop in town that had internet, and you'd work and you'd come home, and then you'd take Quinn and he'd nap and you'd stay working and then come out when Quinn woke up from a nap.
That's right. So if you were to rank me on how I balanced my ambition, what would you give me a rank at those early days?
Exceptionally unbalanced.
Were you angry at me at times?
I think I was. I think I really was. But I don't think I maybe had the language to describe that at the time. But looking back, I'm probably more angry about it now, looking back, than at the time, because it's just the life that I knew.
Well, let's talk about that a bit. I'm going to say a statement. You and I have talked about this a little bit, but I'll just say it for our listeners. How does it make you feel when I tell you that the majority of the time when I started the business, I didn't worry about the kids because I felt I was, quote unquote, doing my job, building a business for our family?
How does that make me feel?
Yeah.
Oh, well, pretty much like a 1950s housewife, what it makes me feel like. Because I was working too.
Right. It wasn't like you were just.
Now, I
Stay
was
them up.
working part-time, but I was working. And I think my biggest anger point is that, frankly, you wouldn't have been able to do so many of the things if I didn't do what I was doing.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Let's talk about some of those. So let's say if I was going out of town for a long trip.
You would make sure I had a babysitter lined up and the groceries were stocked and maybe a couple meals were in the fridge.
That is not what I did.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. No, you literally would announce. And I think you thought that you were like discussing with me your plans of like when you were going to be gone. But reality is you were just kind of telling me because that was your job.
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
My job. Yeah.
And I mean, you went to Africa for the first time for 10 days when we had 4 kids.
Oh, what about the time I went and judged that design show in Hawaii when you were about to have?
No. Let's go. I had just had Ava. She was 1 week old.
And I thought it was in my best interest to go to Hawaii for a long weekend to judge a design show.
Yes. And that, let me just qualify this too. I think I've said this to you and we've had this conversation. Is many listeners might be thinking, Sarah, why didn't you just say something? Why didn't you say you can't go? And what do you think my answer is to that?
You didn't want to tell me no. You wanted me to make the decision on my own.
Yes. I never wanted to be the ball and chain who can't let him do anything. And in hindsight, that probably wasn't fair to you. But you shouldn't really.
Don't let me off the hook.
Letting you off the hook. I'm not letting you off the hook, but I am looking back. You had an entire separate life and social circle, travel experience without me
Yes.
for probably the first
20 years.
20, at least first 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird to say, but I've realized it more now that we are pseudo empty nesters, where
Very pseudo.
there's no state that we go to now to travel that I haven't been at that I'm like, oh, we should do this thing. And you're
Yeah.
like, wait, when were you here? And I was like, oh, yeah, I was here in 2000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took a toll just because of how hard it took a toll for you too, because you lost out on time with the kids and like connection with the kids, that it wasn't just a marriage.
No, there's
Issue.
definitely moments where I was absolutely miserable. And yet I thought, just based on my family of origin story, I was doing what I needed to do as a responsible husband and dad, not realizing that I was overdoing it on so many levels.
Yeah. And your industry is I've said this often, is very outward recognition based, very award based, because what you're creating is also visual and it goes out into the world
Sure.
and you get recognized for it. Your Rule 29 got recognized for it, the team, and you were out speaking. So you were like the face.
Right. Plus,
And that just became what you felt you needed to maintain in order to keep where you were.
yeah, and don't get me wrong, we've talked about this too. I also enjoyed a lot of it.
Oh, you loved it.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I picked an industry that, not that you can't have space, because we figured out how to do that, but if you don't get the job right, you have to keep working until it's done because you have
Yeah.
a deadline. So,
Mhm.
well, what's one rhythm or tradition you think that we've built that have helped us stay connected during hard seasons?
I think one of the best pieces of advice, and I don't remember the timing of when you got it. It wasn't right at the beginning, but to have a yearly annual family meeting of just you and I, where we would go away for a weekend and spend the first day taking a SWOT analysis of the year. We would talk about the business, finances, kids, marriage, and us individually.
Intimacy.
Intimacy, yes.
We talked about it all.
Yeah. And
But let's just, before we skim over that, let's just talk about one of the elements that I think are critical for this, is that you only get out of it what you put into it. So we were diligent for a very long time on having an agenda.
Mhm.
We would take turns leading different sections. And one of the rules we had, especially that first day, we tried to put feelings aside and we would just go right at each other if there's things that were bothering us,
yes,
as best as we could at that time.
yes. But also, I don't think we were ever surprised with something the other person said. I think we talked about things as we went, but this was the time where you and I really sat down, spoke our like hard feelings about it, and then come up with a plan to combat that or compromise.
Yeah.
And
I thought that was huge for our marriage. And especially when we checked in, we looked at our list that we made 6 months later and then again at the following year.
Mhm.
What were your best takeaways from that?
The takeaway is that nothing happens on accident. The business wasn't going to happen on accident. A solid marriage wasn't going to happen on accident. Raising kids that aren't assholes was not going to be an accident.
Oh, we should share. That's one of our themes. What was one of our themes as parents?
Don't raise assholes.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I think if you would have asked me when our kids were little, I would have been offended that is how low the bar is. But actually, I think it's a really high bar, because I want kids that are going to be out in the world making it better. And that was a big conversation with us all the time, of if we saw things with the kids that we did not think was going in the right direction.
Yeah.
that was,
And we had some hard conversations about that. I'm sure we will talk about that in a future episode where we absolutely disagreed on how to parent or discipline or direct
yes.
kids.
How have we helped each other change instead of trying to keep each other the same?
Well, I think I want to reframe that question like you reframed mine earlier.
Okay.
I believe we both thought there was some part, I'll speak for myself. I felt there was some part of myself that I needed to help change you.
Wait, I don't understand that.
There is part of my responsibility as your husband is I needed to help you realize things that you needed to change.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Are we just discovering this now?
Yes.
Really? We talked about things quite often where I'm like, you would say, you do this. I wish you wouldn't do that. And I would say the same thing to you. You don't remember that?
I do kind of, but I guess I've never heard you frame it in that way of like,
Well, maybe I framed it poorly. My point was, it wasn't until we were older and that I realized that if I wanted to quote unquote change you or change something, I had to change myself first. And it took me a long time to figure that out, you know? And
sometimes the change wasn't inherently change, it was acceptance of this is how Sarah is, this is how Justin is. Those aren't going to change drastically. So what are we going to do to mitigate the disruption that those present?
or how do we take a step towards each other on a particular situation?
And I also feel it's very key that we also have some topics that we've agreed to disagree on.
Yes. They still come up on occasion.
For sure. That's what I meant. That we are going to, and that probably would have caused us angst earlier in our marriage. But I think now it doesn't cause me angst. I don't want to speak for you.
No, it doesn't cause me angst. I remember when I was younger, I just was so insecure. And I think it was part of this, maybe this perceived control or, I don't know, authority or, I didn't know what a healthy marriage was. None of my parents had stayed married. Not that they were bad people or anything. It just, I didn't have a roadmap, and so I was, literally trying to make it up as I go. And I think there was things that if you didn't agree with me, then I somehow was failing.
I think you had a lot of that. That was a thread that ran through a lot of your timing with various things. It was a lot of personal failure if something wasn't going as you predicted or felt was how it should be.
I agree. So when did you feel, and you can pick the era, early marriage, middle marriage, or current marriage space, when did you feel the most supported by me? Not just as your husband, but as, your true partner.
Is this meaning in business and life or when?
However you want to answer it. Give one of each.
Yeah. I think as a partner, we're more partners now than we ever have been.
And what does that mean to you?
That means we truly share in the work of the house.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of times, and this was created by both of us, there were man jobs and women jobs, and, kids, laundry, cleaning, cooking was mine, and, the rest. And I think as our kids got older and they started doing more for themselves, I was like, wait a minute. I don't need to be doing all this for you either. And it's not that like you do your own laundry. We truly do it together. We have a lot of the topic or the jobs of the house, we just do together, or we just, whenever one has the time, we do it, which is a very big change, probably in the last 3 years.
I agree.
And then in business, I think those last few years, when it was the hardest, I felt the most supported because we were like hand in hand on a daily basis.
Especially during COVID when we were shitting.
Oh my gosh, that was horrible. We each had our own spheres of responsibility that were different. They didn't have tons of overlap other than they were Rule 29. But you were trying to keep the creative team and work happening, and I was just trying to keep the lights on and everyone employed.
Yeah. Yeah. That was,
Yeah, that was really.
I don't understand. I don't know how we would have made it through our marriage or anything had we not been lockstep in that whole situation.
Yeah. And thank God I was medicated at that time as well.
And what about as a co-parent?
I think co-parenting we're better at. It's probably one of our biggest stumbling blocks
Oh, really?
sometimes. I think we just have different perceptions of how to react and what sometimes is important to the other is not important.
Yeah, I think we still have some of those in a residual manner, but not as far apart as they used to be.
That's fair. But it is something, I think that probably the thing we don't really fight anymore. I mean, that's not a complimentary. It's just not.
Should we fight?
We have just very heated discussions, but
Yeah.
and
That's me being smart aleck.
I know, and disagreements, but we don't have the kind of fights we did in our 20s. And
What I find
30s.
interesting about us in parenting, this is my perception. Tell me if you feel this is true. There are times that we'll absolutely flip sides
Oh, for sure.
on how we would approach something because one of us is pissed or frustrated at one of our kids. And
thank God we're usually yin and yanging that.
oh yeah, talk about that. That's something we talk about a lot.
For whatever reason, there's been very few times where both of us were losing it at the same time. So if someone was low, the other could go high. And meaning energy, patience, kind words.
Yeah.
And I once heard Brene Brown talk about that, you're always giving 100%. And the reality is some days you come home, like you might come home and say, Sarah, I'm at 40%. And I'm like, well, I'm at a whopping 47%. So neither of us are whole right now. So how do we get through this? And I think that you and I both were able to recognize those days and kind of figure out how to manage and navigate those with some success. But it took years of practice.
Oh, for sure.
And growing up and getting more emotionally intelligent and aware.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything magical about us other than time and experience.
Well, I totally agree with that. We were committed to each other.
Well, no, I'm not saying we weren't committed to each other. I just don't think we came up with this magic bullet. We just agreed that we were going to get through it.
Yeah. I mean, we've gone through plenty of hard times in our marriage for a variety of different reasons. And, when I was getting ready for this, I found this one stat that I thought was interesting. And this is something that you and I have been talking about a lot, that couples who navigate financial stress or career changes with team thinking, so the we versus me concept, have a 60% higher long-term relationship satisfaction. That sounds very
clinical.
Yeah.
But no, I would agree because there were times, because I handle the financial side of our lives, that I kept that siloed. And when there was stress, I thought I was hiding the stress from you.
Right. You weren't.
But I wasn't. And so when I can share those things with you, it doesn't make the problem go away, but it allows us to have that team thinking and on the same page. And I'm not quite sure how you could get through it white knuckling it alone.
No. So what was one season you honestly didn't think we were going to get through it?
You want to go there?
Well, I mean, it's not like we just had one.
No. I remember when we were living in Arizona and you were working, 70 hours a week?
Easily.
And I didn't have a job I liked. And I was home alone a lot. And you were and the thing was, it'd be different if you were like coming home and hating being there, but you were energized by working that much. You were jazzed.
Yeah, I loved my job.
All the time.
Yeah.
And so excited. getting up early, going in, and coming home late were not, it was almost energy giving to you.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I felt very second, third, fourth class.
Did you feel, outside of alone, did you feel neglected? Lonely?
Lonely. And I just felt like this is not marriage.
Mm.
This is Justin's life, and I'm like a gift with purchase. And so I basically sat you down and said, I'm moving home. You're free to join me. But if you stay here and choose this life, we're getting a divorce.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how you framed it.
And it wasn't a yelling, it wasn't crying, it wasn't.
No, and I think part of the reason,
And let's frame that. I was 24 years old and you were 26. So we've been married for 4 years at this point.
yeah, I think it was a hard thing to hear, of course, but there's two factors. One, it didn't surprise me in the sense that, because I knew I worked a lot, but then again, at the same time, it did surprise me because I thought, again, I was doing what I was supposed to do, to be a provider, right?
But do you think that's a little bit of like rationalizing it too?
Yeah, no, I think there's levels of it, right? This whole conversation and my outlook on marriage feels like a, patriarchy 1950s, which wasn't how I would have explained it. I just thought, hey, if I can go and make a good career and put extra time in right now, like now is the time to do it, so we could, enjoy the harvest, quote unquote. And I just didn't. And to be fair, our marriage started out kind of wonky. We moved to Arizona and you had to finish school in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So we were poor. So you were going to school. I mean, you were a stud. You went to school all day and then worked at night. And then we even had roommates in our apartment because we wanted to save money, which was weird, especially when the one roommate walked out in a towel and you weren't home. And I was like, this is uncomfortable. So we had a lot of those interesting things happen early in our marriage to try to, navigate, money and everything else. I'm not letting myself off the hook. I'm just saying there was an interesting way that we started. And when we moved into our house, which was an incredible, fortunate gift to be able to do that 4 years in, I thought, wow, this is working, right? And I kind of used that as a way to justify my working a ton and all that stuff.
You were liking the success.
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think for me, that time was for sure challenging. I just lost one of my good friends right around that time. And moving home just felt in some ways like a failure. And I realized that was just my ego getting in the way and needing to say goodbye to something that I thought was really great. And coming home was the best thing we did.
Yeah, but it was hard. That was hard too.
Oh, for sure.
You took a big pay cut to a job you didn't love.
I love the people.
Yeah. It just wasn't your dream job.
No. And even in that we learned a ton.
Yeah.
Of just what was important.
Well, what would you say is a season you didn't think we'd get through?
I think the transition of the business has been really challenging. The way it's changed since COVID till now. It wasn't anything I expected. And that's been really challenging. Where I realized, although I felt like I've been a lot healthier with my perspective on work, I realized that I still identify a lot with my job. And so having that change, although I'm on the other side of it now, is, although I wouldn't wish any of that on my worst enemy, it feels like a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
So if you could go back and tell Sarah that year that you gave me the ultimatum to move home or we were dunzos, what would you have said to yourself?
Encouraging or just, I don't know. Well, to be honest, if I'm going to be authentic, I would tell her to grow up a little bit. I had a lot of princess issues there. I wanted certain things, and I had also a vision. You had a vision of work, and I had a vision of family and marriage because I was wanting to have kids
Right.
because I thought that was going to be the answer.
You did.
Yeah.
You did.
And so I needed to take a hard look at myself and say, what am I contributing to this? This isn't all Justin. But I mean, it's cliche, but I would want to tell her it's going to be okay. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be perfect. And some days are going to be painful. But try to look beyond your toes.
Hmm.
That's good.
I like that. I think I would have said to myself that, my uncle said to us, during the summer, that this doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but you will get through all of this and you will feel normal again and everything will be good. And that was probably some of the best advice I ever gotten, especially when there's lots of things I was worrying about that I had zero control of. And so I would try to tell myself something in those, kind of veins of, it's going to be fine. You're going to work out. You're good at what you do. And there will be a day where all will be right.
What do you think is one of the reasons we were able to work together for as long as we did?
Oh, I know what that is for sure. I think there's a couple key things, like sort of like building blocks that exist for us. Even when we make mistakes and even when we hurt each other, purposely or not on purpose, I think we have the inherent trust in each other. And I think we both respect each other from, intellectually, what we believe in beyond ourselves. And of course, just the deep love we have for each other. But everything comes back to respect and trust, at least for me. I remember times where we get in arguments because I thought whatever I thought at the time, and it was just ridiculous. And I could go to bed at night when I realized I'm being ridiculous here. That's not something I need to worry about. What about you?
I also think we had a clear division of skill sets. We had you had your bucket. You were front of house. Like if I'm going to give a restaurant,
Oh, look at you.
analogy, you were front of house and I was back of house. We both had the same goals. We both had the same true north of what we wanted and what we needed. And we both knew what needed to happen. And then we both had our own areas of genius that we took ownership of, communicated about. But you let me know what was going on in your area, but I didn't really speak into how to do it. And same on my side.
Yeah, we trusted each other to do our thing.
Yeah.
And when we, kind of nagged at each other or picked on each other is when we had issues.
Yeah. But we also just, I was doing something that worked for my brain and you were doing something that worked for your brain. And it's not like I was just letting you do it. I just almost didn't understand what you do in a lot of ways to start, and you didn't.
And I was usually right.
Yeah, right.
So would you say in marriage and business, it's not about never failing. It's about learning how you can fall together, get back up, and keep running?
Oh, yes. If the getting back up is the hardest part.
Yeah. All right. Quick fire questions. You ready?
Okay.
One word, just one word.
Okay.
Describe how you feel about our 31 years together so far.
Entertaining. And you?
Adventurous.
Yeah. And what's one word for what you hope for the next 31 years for us?
More adventurous.
That's lame.
Well, you tell me yours.
Travel.
Travel?
We're going to travel.
Actually, mine would be really easy. It's presence, being present.
Yeah, I like that. I do.
Well, this is good. 31 years.
You all just witnessed a little therapy session
That's right.
because that's
Wow.
what it's all about. Truth. Speaking truth.
Wow, I don't know what's going on with your
Yeah, it's because
voice right now.
I'm hitting my sap again
Okay,
in
well,
a strange way.
then we'll go ahead and close this one out, and we'll see you next show.
So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Running Errands. We truly love having these conversations and sharing them with you.
And if something resonated with you today, we'd be so grateful if you'd rate and review the show. It helps more people find us.
And if you know someone who'd connect with this episode, send it their way. You never know who might need to hear it.
We'd also love to hear from you, your feedback, your stories, or even topics you'd like us to tackle next.
You can connect with us on our personal socials or through the website, runningerrands.today. And links are always in the show notes.
Until next time, keep showing up, stay kind, and remember,
Life's a long run, and the best way forward is together.
let's do this.